According to Carl Jung, the love of your life is not simply someone who matches your preferences or checks every box on paper. It is someone your unconscious recognizes long before your conscious mind fully understands why. Deep within the psyche exist hidden forces Jung called the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine energies that shape the way we experience love, attraction, and emotional connection. These forces silently influence our choices, drawing us toward people who can awaken neglected parts of ourselves and push us toward psychological wholeness. Jung observed that when we encounter a truly transformative connection, something profound happens beneath the surface. This person does not only attract us physically or emotionally, they activate dormant areas of our personality. Suddenly, qualities we buried long ago begin to emerge. A person who spent years emotionally guarded may become deeply vulnerable. Someone who always doubted their strength may discover unexpected confidence and purpose. The connection feels strangely familiar, as if the soul already recognizes something the mind cannot yet explain. But Jung warned that this experience is rarely calm or simple. True love does not leave the psyche untouched. It disrupts old patterns, shakes the ego, and forces inner change. This is why powerful connections can feel both magnetic and frightening at the same time. The unconscious begins reorganizing itself around the encounter, creating what Jung called a complex constellation, a deep psychological shift that can transform the structure of personality itself. Many people run from this stage because they fear losing control over the identity they have carefully built. One of the clearest signs of this kind of love, according to Jung, is the confrontation with the shadow. The shadow contains everything we reject, hide, or suppress within ourselves: fears, insecurities, desires, anger, vulnerability, and even untapped potential. Most relationships only touch the surface, but a soul-level connection reaches these hidden depths. The other person begins reflecting back parts of ourselves we have avoided for years. At first, this can feel uncomfortable or even painful because true intimacy exposes the masks we use to protect the ego. Yet the remarkable thing about a transformative relationship is that the other person does not merely expose the shadow, they help us integrate it. Instead of rejecting our darker traits, they see the humanity behind them. Flaws that once created shame begin to reveal hidden strengths. Sensitivity becomes empathy. Stubbornness becomes resilience. Intensity becomes passion and depth. The relationship becomes a mirror through which we slowly learn to accept ourselves more fully. This does not mean the connection is effortless. In fact, Jung believed the deepest love often demands the greatest courage. A person who truly sees you will naturally challenge your ego because they force you to confront truths you would rather avoid. But unlike destructive relationships built on judgment or control, this challenge comes with understanding. The love of your life does not try to erase who you are. They help uncover who you were meant to become beneath fear, conditioning, and emotional defenses. That is why such relationships feel unforgettable. They are not only romantic experiences, they are psychological awakenings. The unconscious recognizes in the other person a missing part of the self, a symbolic counterpart that helps move us toward individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole. And once this kind of connection touches the soul, it changes the way we see ourselves, love, and life forever. According to Carl Jung, truly transformative love does not weaken the soul, it expands it. The conflicts that emerge inside these rare connections are not meaningless struggles designed to destroy the relationship. They are invitations into growth. When two people are deeply connected on an unconscious level, every emotional challenge becomes part of a larger process of psychological evolution. Instead of pushing each other further into fear, they unconsciously pull one another toward greater wholeness. This is why certain relationships feel strangely sacred even during painful moments. Both people sense that something deeper than ordinary attraction is taking place. Jung believed that one of the clearest signs of a soul-level connection appears through synchronicity, a phenomenon he described as meaningful coincidence. These are events that seem impossible to explain through logic alone, moments where life itself appears to arrange circumstances in ways that carry deep symbolic meaning. In relationships connected to individuation, synchronicities often become impossible to ignore. The same names appear repeatedly. Paths cross in highly unlikely situations. Conversations happen at exactly the right moment. Dreams, symbols, and intuitive feelings begin aligning with external events in ways that feel almost orchestrated. What makes these experiences so powerful is not simply that coincidences happen, but that they carry emotional and psychological significance. Jung noticed that synchronicities tend to intensify around people who play an important role in our inner development. The unconscious begins communicating through symbols, patterns, and encounters as if trying to guide us towards something essential. Many people dismiss these moments because they cannot rationally explain them. Yet for Jung, synchronicity revealed that the human psyche is connected to a deeper order beneath ordinary reality. This becomes even more mysterious when two people begin sharing emotional or intuitive experiences across distance. Jung documented countless examples of what he called mystical participation, moments where individuals seemed connected beyond normal communication. Couples reported thinking the same thoughts simultaneously, sensing emotional shifts before receiving any message, or dreaming about events that later unfolded in reality. Some even described sudden physical sensations when the other person was suffering or in danger far away. Jung did not see these experiences as fantasy, but as evidence that deep connections can operate through layers of the psyche modern logic still struggles to explain. Yet this psychic connection is not meant to create dependency. In fact, Jung warned against confusing deep spiritual resonance with unhealthy attachment. The purpose of such bonds is not to lose oneself inside another person, but to awaken greater consciousness within both individuals. The connection becomes a bridge toward individuation, the lifelong process of integrating all aspects of the self. This leads directly into another essential part of Jung's theory, the archetypes of the collective unconscious. Jung believed every human being carries universal symbolic patterns inside the psyche, ancient energies shared across all cultures and throughout history. These archetypes include figures like the lover, the warrior, the sage, the nurturer, the child, the ruler, and many others. Most people unconsciously live through only a small number of these patterns, leaving huge parts of their personality undeveloped or dormant. But when someone enters your life at a soul level, they often awaken archetypes within you that were previously asleep. A person who spent years disconnected from vulnerability may suddenly access the archetype of the lover. Someone who feared responsibility may awaken leadership and strength. Another may reconnect with creativity, wisdom, compassion, or courage they never fully expressed before. The relationship becomes psychologically transformative because it activates dimensions of identity that ordinary experiences never touch. This is why such love feels so life-changing. It is not only emotional attraction, it is an expansion of consciousness itself. The other person acts almost like a psychological key, unlocking hidden rooms within the psyche. Suddenly, life feels fuller, richer, and more meaningful because more of the self is coming alive. Jung believed this process was one of the deepest purposes of love, not merely comfort or companionship, but awakening the totality of who we are capable of becoming. And perhaps that is why these connections are so unforgettable. They do not simply give us affection, they reveal possibilities within ourselves we may never have discovered alone. Through synchronicity, shadow integration, archetypal awakening, and emotional transformation, the relationship becomes far more than romance. It becomes part of the soul's journey toward wholeness. This entire speech reveals that true love, according to Carl Jung, is far more than attraction, comfort, or temporary emotion. It is a profound psychological and spiritual awakening that transforms who we are at the deepest level. The love of your life is not simply someone who fits your preferences or satisfies your desires. It is the person who activates hidden parts of your soul, confronts your fears, awakens your shadow, and pushes you toward becoming your most complete and authentic self. The speech explains that real love is recognized through powerful inner signs, the awakening of the anima or animus, the healing integration of the shadow, meaningful synchronicities, the activation of hidden archetypes, and the feeling that your life suddenly carries a deeper purpose and meaning. These connections are not random, they feel destined because they arise from the collective unconscious and align with the journey of individuation, the path toward wholeness. At the same time, this kind of love is not easy or superficial. It challenges the ego, breaks old patterns, and forces both people to grow beyond fear, illusion, and emotional masks. That is why so many people run from it. True love demands courage, vulnerability, and transformation. It asks us to face ourselves honestly and embrace the parts we once rejected. Ultimately, the speech reminds us that the love of your life is not meant to keep you comfortable. It is meant to awaken you. It becomes a sacred mirror through which you discover your deepest identity, your hidden potential, and the divine wholeness already living within you. And when you recognize these signs, the greatest decision is whether you will continue hiding inside familiar limitations or finally trust the deeper wisdom of your soul and step into the extraordinary transformation that real love offers. This entire speech ultimately reveals that true love is not simply a romantic experience, but one of the deepest psychological and spiritual transformations a human being can undergo. Through the lens of Carl Jung and analytical psychology, love is presented not as coincidence, fantasy, or surface level attraction, but as a sacred encounter between two souls whose connection awakens hidden dimensions of the psyche. The person we call the love of our life is not merely someone who makes us feel desired or emotionally safe. They are the one who activates our deepest archetypes, confronts our unconscious patterns, and guides us toward becoming the fullest version of ourselves. The speech explains that long before the conscious mind understands what is happening, the unconscious psyche already recognizes certain people as profoundly significant. This recognition occurs through the activation of the anima and animus, the inner masculine and feminine energies that exist within every person. When these archetypal forces are awakened by another human being, the connection feels unlike anything ordinary. It creates the strange sensation of familiarity, as though two souls have known each other across time itself. The relationship begins to feel meaningful on a level that logic cannot explain because the unconscious recognizes the other person as essential to the process of individuation, the lifelong journey toward psychological wholeness. But the speech also makes it clear that this kind of love is not always soft, easy, or comfortable. Real transformation never is. True love does not only awaken beauty and passion, it also awakens fear, insecurity, vulnerability, and the hidden aspects of ourselves we have spent years trying to suppress. This is where Jung's concept of the shadow becomes central. The shadow contains all the rejected, denied, and unintegrated parts of our personality, including pain, anger, shame, fear, and even unrealized potential. Most relationships remain shallow because they never reach these depths. But transformative love forces the shadow into the light. The other person becomes a mirror reflecting not only who we want to be, but also who we truly are beneath our masks. This is why such relationships often feel intense, destabilizing, and emotionally overwhelming. They challenge the ego's need for control and comfort. The speech emphasizes that many people run away at exactly this point because they mistake discomfort for incompatibility. In reality, the intensity often exists because something sacred is happening internally. The soul is being asked to evolve. The old self begins to dissolve so that a more complete self can emerge. True love is therefore not just about emotional fulfillment, it is about psychological rebirth. Another major truth woven throughout the speech is the idea of synchronicity, one of Jung's most mysterious and profound discoveries. Meaningful coincidences begin to appear around these deep connections as though life itself is guiding two people toward each other. Repeated encounters, dreams, symbols, intuitive knowing, and inexplicable moments of alignment create the feeling that something larger than ordinary chance is involved. The speech suggests that these synchronicities are signs that the unconscious is aligning us with our destiny and with the archetypal path meant for our growth. They remind us that some relationships carry a significance far beyond surface attraction because they are connected to the deeper unfolding of the soul. The speech also explores how real love activates hidden archetypes within us. Certain people awaken strengths, gifts, emotions, creativity, wisdom, and courage that may have remained dormant our entire lives. In the presence of such a connection, individuals begin to discover sides of themselves they never knew existed. A fearful person becomes brave. A guarded person becomes emotionally open. A disconnected person becomes creative and alive again. This is not performance or illusion. It is the psyche responding to a transformative bond that unlocks unrealized human potential. The relationship becomes a catalyst for expansion, growth, and awakening. Most importantly, the speech explains that true love gives life a sense of deeper meaning. Jung believed every human being carries a personal myth, a symbolic story guiding their evolution. Most people live disconnected from that deeper narrative, trapped in routines, expectations, and unconscious patterns. But when the love of one's life appears, suddenly the fragments of existence begin to make sense. Painful experiences, heartbreaks, loneliness, failures, and even past suffering are seen differently. They become preparation rather than punishment. Every wound reveals itself as part of the journey leading toward greater awareness and wholeness. At the same time, the speech repeatedly warns that this level of love requires extraordinary courage. Archetypal love cannot coexist with emotional dishonesty, ego-driven masks, or the desire to remain psychologically stagnant. It demands vulnerability. It demands growth. It demands the willingness to confront fears and embrace transformation, even when it disrupts familiar patterns. Many people settle for superficial relationships precisely because they fear the intensity of what true love asks of them. It is easier to stay comfortable than to be transformed. Yet comfort alone can never satisfy the soul's deeper longing for wholeness and authentic connection. The conclusion of the speech ultimately carries a powerful message of awakening. The love of your life is not simply someone who fits conveniently into your current world. They are a doorway into your highest potential. They are a living mirror revealing both your wounds and your greatness. They are the catalyst that forces you to step beyond limitation and become who you were always meant to be. Real love is therefore not passive or accidental. It is sacred work. It is the meeting point between destiny and consciousness, between the unconscious and the soul, between who we have been and who we are capable of becoming. In the end, the speech teaches that true love is not meant to keep us small, safe, or asleep. It is meant to awaken us completely. It shakes the foundations of our identity, exposes the illusions we cling to, and invites us into a fuller experience of life itself. The greatest tragedy is not losing love. The greatest tragedy is refusing the transformation that love offers because of fear. And so the final lesson becomes deeply personal. When the signs of this sacred connection appear in your life, the question is not whether love exists. The question is whether you are brave enough to recognize it, trust it, and allow it to change you forever.